And welcome again to Cottage Talk. I am Russ Goldman. Joining me right now is Max Cohen. This is our post-match show of Fulham's last friendly of the season as they get ready for the Liverpool match to start the Premier League season. Max, I can't believe we're talking about this. We are 6 days away from that. But again, this is our initial reaction, or you could say post-match show. We'll call it post-match show of what we just watched, my friend. So I want to get your thoughts on just your first opening thoughts on what we watched today. I'll just share, and then I'll go to you. I was impressed by what I saw. Yes, they gave up a goal, but I thought Fulham played very well, my friend. And I'm going to say very well. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think first thing you have to mention that it's a friendly and the intensity was lower than we'd expect next week in the Premier League. But I think there were a lot of encouraging signs. As you said, the passing was crisp at times. I think the new signings played quite well. You mentioned
All of
Pereira
them.
before we joined the
I
show.
thought
I
all
think
of them
Pereira,
played well.
I've been surprised by him. I thought
Yes.
Paulinho is clearly going to be
Oh,
a difference maker in central midfield, protecting the back four. I was impressed by him. And then, of course, Mbabu came on and within a couple minutes got the assist. So a lot of positives to take from it. Of course, with the goal we conceded, it showed that there are some defensive frailties. But let's be clear, I don't think Tim Ream and Tosin looked outmatched today. But we have to remember
I was a little surprised by that, to be honest with you. I was
Villarreal's best
expecting
player
them to
wasn't
be.
playing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and again, we have to talk about that. It wasn't friendly. They weren't playing Moreno for most of the match. I think we had it a bit easy. The real worries, in my opinion, were the fullbacks. I was not
Oh,
really that impressed with Tete and Robinson. I think it's clear why.
Robinson, I thought had
Yeah.
a shocker, Max.
Yeah.
And again, people know how I feel about him, but I'm watching him and I want him to do well. I thought he was poor today.
Yeah, and there's a lot of lessons to be learned, which they should know is that when you play against top level opposition like Villarreal and like we're going to play like in the Premier League every week,
Yep.
mistakes get punished, and we saw that today. And it's not going to be as generous as it was in the Championship when you can get away with giving away the ball in your own defensive third. If it happens in the Premier League, a goal is going to happen 9 times out of 10. And even if it's the first half like we saw today, when I thought we were the better team by far,
Right.
you give a team like Villarreal one chance, they'll take
Just
it. They
one
have that
chance.
quality.
That's all it took.
And then this is something we saw back in 2021, 2018, 19, the two past Premier League seasons when we got relegated. We'd have spells of matches when we were playing well by all accounts. And then there's one defensive lapse, and it's 1-0, and the wind's out of our sails. And that's what we saw today in some respects. So I think we need reinforcements. We know that. But hey, we got a draw. Mitrovic got a goal, good for his confidence. And I think Marcus Silva's we look better prepared than I think I expected, at least at this stage.
That's how I feel, my friend. That's again how I feel. I was expecting something similar to what we saw against Benfica, which I thought was a crap show. I thought it was horrible and actually left me a little bit concerned, but I kept saying, well, they still have time. They'll be adding players and it'll be coming together. It was the beginning of some of these friendlies. It was the second one, but I still had a feeling that there was still growth there. And of course, I think now we've seen some growth in a few weeks and you could see it coming together. You could see the crisp passing, which I think was something I wasn't expecting. I actually said to a friend before the match, I said, I have a feeling that this is going to be like the Benfica match and everyone's going to go in panic mode. Well, that's not what we got here. We got something very different. I'll just share my opening thoughts and we'll go through observations of first half and then, of course, the second half. And Max, as you said, again, I will just say it. I was pleasantly surprised. What really stood out for me was the pressing. I thought the pressing was very good. I think they caused some problems with Villarreal, how they wanted to approach it, playing out from the back. The goalkeeper was annoying what he was doing, but Fulham, it was like this cat and mouse game. But I thought Fulham did a very good job when they were trying to press. But the player that stood out to me, and I also want to mention this, if you're watching live, who was your man of the match? I'm going to say right now, my man of the match was Andres Pereira because I thought he was good. Listen, I'm very concerned about losing Carvalho, and that is a vital position for Fulham. But what I saw from Andres Pereira was encouraging today. As you said, Max, it's a friendly. We'll see what happens against Liverpool. But I was encouraged by his play, the play of Paulinho, because I thought Paulinho was all over the pitch. Again, covers so much ground. I think that's encouraging. So those are the bright spots overall for me. But the negatives, and again, I'm glad that you talked about the fullbacks because I thought both fullbacks were very again, average, and I thought Anthony Robinson at times was poor. So that's where I'm going on that. But again, let's get into really talking about what we watched today. But before we do that, I also want to mention to please subscribe on YouTube. We're going to be doing so many live shows. So if you subscribe, you'll get the alerts to us going live on YouTube. We are live on Twitter, and we're also live on Facebook. But such a great way to watch us is on YouTube. Okay, my friend, I'll go to you first. Give me your first half observations. Let's stick with the first half.
Yeah, the first half, we were the better side, plain and simple. Villarreal didn't really have many attacks of note. I don't think Rodak had to make a save all half, and then he had to pick the ball out of his net, halfway through. So at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of good movement. You look at the starting 11, I think we should start there.
Right.
And it did look great. We had the new signings in, a couple of them, Paulini and Pereira. But apart from that, that's a championship side from last year, missing Harry Wilson.
Yes.
So if you look at that starting 11 just by quality, Decadova Reed starting, he wouldn't normally start. But apart from that, and obviously Nico Williams started second half of the season. That was largely the side that went up. And I don't think that's where a lot of fans expected us to be 6 days before we start our Premier League campaign against Liverpool, who, as we saw yesterday, they're going to be up for it. They're not sleepwalking through preseason. They just won the Community Shield. So that being said, I was impressed at how the first half went, considering the quality of the squad on paper. I think, Cabana looked up for it. Decadova Reed looked up for it. There's quick passing. And as you mentioned, Pereira, someone who I had a lot of question marks about. I don't think he produced at a top level consistently. And it was a gamble, I think, to buy him on a permanent basis.
Yeah.
His set piece delivery looks really good. We've seen that in other matches. He's bright.
His passing.
His passing. He has a bit of, tricks, which I think sometimes are superfluous. Sometimes he gave the ball away. But overall, I think he's going to be someone who starts almost every single match for us.
Yeah.
And is going to be a creative force. So obviously, that was the positives. The big chance, I think, was Decadova Reed, and it was a good ball in, but he kind of turned his back to it. That was the main. We had good attacking spells, but I couldn't really point to many clear-cut chances apart from that Decadova Reed miss.
But it was the build-up play, though.
Yeah, the build-up play is good. I agree. I think Paulini as well. First time I've really seen him, over 90 minutes essentially. I'm really impressed because I think one thing I've always talked about in the Premier League seasons, we've struggled in the past couple of seasons when we've been up, is that there's not that strong presence to protect the back four. I would say Kevin McDonald, but we know he's not a Premier League player, but a Kevin McDonald-like player.
This is a Premier League Kevin McDonald.
And we've been missing that. You think about past couple seasons.
Totally agree.
And Gisa was never really that player.
Totally agree.
Sari certainly wasn't that player. Callum Chambers did his best, but that's not really his best position. Now we have a true holding midfielder who's going to get stuck in. Also draws a lot of fouls, sets things up.
That's a little nerve-wracking, though, to be honest with you.
Yeah. But that was, I think, the positives.
Okay.
The negatives, right? We'll look at the negatives.
Yep.
And that was, of course, the goal. And I don't want to be too negative about it because it was one instance, but Chukwueze is obviously one of their best players, and Robinson just got beat, plain and simple, with quite a straightforward pass. It wasn't like it was an amazing flowing move. It was a straight ball down the wing and just got beat. Ream does well with the header, but everyone, if you watch the replay, all of our defenders rush towards the goal line. And no one's thinking, oh, wait, what if that ball gets cleared back out to the top of the box, which it did.
Yeah.
I think maybe accuse Paulinho of ball watching, Pereira, perhaps. Not all their fault, but that's where you need your central midfielders to be. Because at the end of the day, it's a great finish. It's a great hit by Parejo. It's a great hit, but no one's around it.
But beyond that, Villarreal did next to nothing, my friend. They really didn't do much. I mean, that was their one big chance. And as you said, that's what killed us 2 seasons ago. So as I'm going to give Fulham praise, you have to be wary of these situations and these, I guess you could say, negative situations that we're seeing during matches. You cannot make these types of mistakes. And they did. And the fullbacks, as you mentioned, and maybe there was some ball watching as well. It's something that they need to correct. So in a way, it annoys me, but I also think it's a good thing if you are a positive person like myself. It's something to work on because you don't want to be giving up goals like this. You're going to look at yourself and say, this is what we need to correct. But as we're talking about this, my friend, I'm glad that we're talking about the first half. I want to focus on central midfield. And there's a player we haven't talked about, and I'm curious your thoughts on this because when I'm watching the first half, I'm thinking, where's Harrison Reed going to fit in here? I think I'm starting to see his role. I'm starting to see why Marco was pushing him a little bit further up last season. Because if you have Paulinho playing his role, it allows Harrison Reed to do a little bit more, my friend. He can still protect, but he can go forward and he can actually affect the match. I noticed that in the first half. I kind of liked what I saw from Harrison Reed. I want your view on that and how he plays in this midfield three.
Yeah, I think, as you mentioned, he's a person who's very quick on the ball. And as always, his footballing brain, I think, is excellent. He's always looking for the next pass, quick touch and move. This season, I think, is going to be key. And I think you mentioned last season, Silva wanted to play him further forward, and we're seeing why now. I'm not sure if I'm totally in love with it, but
Okay.
there are other situations in the pitch which need, addressing before that. I've addressed that Harrison Reed situation.
Yeah.
I think it'll be good for us, but I just worry because yes, today we played a good side, and yes, we got a draw, but and I just keep saying this, and you might get annoyed, but the intensity just wasn't there. We
I
know
know.
how quick the Premier League is, and I just don't want us to draw too many conclusions from today because we had a lot of time on the ball. They didn't press us at all. Essentially, we were doing most of the pressing, as you were saying, against a Liverpool. Obviously one of the best teams in the league. I think we're going to be found out, and I don't know
Oh,
if
I
that's
agree with that.
necessarily on the attacking side, but I'm worried more about the defense,
Sure.
and how we react to a team who's going to press us when we play out from the back, because we can see how the fullbacks. That's where the pressure is going to be when we're playing
Right.
out from the back, and they're the weak links at the moment. But central midfield, I was very surprised. I think today it worked. Today it worked.
Yes. Yes. And that's all I want to put. I want to judge it by what we're watching, Max. I understand what you're saying. It is a friendly. It's not going to be the intensity level is not what it should be. Okay, so let's be honest here. But it's also a dress rehearsal for both sides, right? So for me, it was a very good dress rehearsal. It got us a chance to see how the passing can work. And I was actually really impressed to see that. Defensively, those questions are still going to be there, and they should be there because we need reinforcements there. What I want to say, and again, my observations of the first half, going back to it, are positive. But again, it doesn't change. I think it's okay. And I actually went on Twitter and I said, I thought it was a good first half. I saw many say decent. I thought it was a good first half. And we can quibble on good and decent, but I think it's okay to say it's good and also be able to observe that we need reinforcements in the back. It's okay. It's okay to give them credit. We all know what they still need. If you're giving them credit, it's not going to stop us from observing what they need, or it's not going to stop the team from getting reinforcements if we give them praise, Max. I think sometimes supporters can think, well, I need to criticize them. I need to be so negative so the club acts. You can, but you can also praise them when they deserve it. And I thought they deserved it in the first half. That's all where I was going on my first half observations, which are on Twitter.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I think we were clearly the better side in that first half. We just didn't really have the cutting edge. Mitrovic didn't get involved as much as we would have liked. And I think, we have to remember that we're missing Harry Wilson and we're missing Solomon.
Right.
And I think both those players can be really key in the Premier League. I'm really excited to see Solomon play. I
So am
guess
I.
he couldn't have played because it's not the 1st of August.
Right.
Weird rule. Like, we announced him as a player, so why can't he play? Whatever. Don't really understand. But again, Harry Wilson was one of our best performers, if not our second best performer.
He wasn't out there
last season. So, and I think he got injured in a closed door friendly is what I've been hearing.
Okay.
So we have to remember that I think the possession was good. I think we lacked a cutting edge at times in this match, but hopefully that will change when we get the two really bright wingers. And I expect those wingers to start over Cabano and Decadova Reed. So it was, in essence, kind of a second choice team in some respects today. So maybe that's even more to your point, Russ, is even with the team, which is not going to be starting week in, week out, we look decent. We look good.
Right. And that's my point. And going back to talking about observations in the first half, Neeskens Cabano playing on the right. What did you make of him playing on the right side and BDR playing on the left?
Yeah, they were swapping sometimes, and I think that's always good to have. I think Silva likes to have the flexibility. Cabano, for me, I love him. I can't really think of anything he did today. If if
But
you
do you
ask
think
me.
he can cut it? Do you think he could
Um,
be someone that can be involved, at least a squad player? Do you think he could come off
yeah,
the bench? What do you
why
think in the
not?
Premier League?
Why not? He should definitely be an
Okay.
impact sub. I think his end product, I don't know if that's going to be there in the Premier League. We have not really seen him. We've not really seen him contribute in the top flight ever. I think he's a very good championship player. So I would hesitate to give too much credit to him in the Premier League, but there's no reason if we're chasing a goal 10 minutes to go, he'll come on. But ideally, a squad we'd have, he wouldn't play a big role.
Okay.
Because if we have Wilson out there, we have Solomon out there. I think those are two players which are better than him. I was actually more impressed today by Deco Reed,
I thought
who,
that Bobby
lest we forget,
Decordova-Reid played
I
very
mean,
well. Yeah.
was he not our top scorer last time we were in the Premier League?
That's so funny
And
that
I
you
think
say that.
I'm often critical of him because I think sometimes he just misses chances he should score. But he actually has produced for us in the top flight, and why not give him more of a shot? I think if I'm bringing someone off the bench, I'd be more likely to bring in Reed
Yep.
than the others.
Okay. Let me share some comments. We're just getting into the show. This is from Neil Stewart. But the fragility of this team was on full display
Yep.
today. There will be injuries this year, and depth is a real issue, even if we make a couple more moves. Neil, you're right, and I'm not going to disagree with you on that. When I'm looking at the transfer window right now, I see the priorities being starters, but they also need depth. And it's a good point from Neil that they're going to need that. Again, we could talk about the second half. I did like the fact that two of the youngsters came on, but that also shows that they do need depth, my friend. Especially at the center back position. If I'm seeing this correctly, it's possible that another center back might be leaving. Congolo might be leaving. He's a trialist right now. I want to say at Stoke. So again, I'm having to think, why are they letting all these players leave and go on trial? And yeah, so what are your thoughts?
I mean, if Stoke take him, that would be a miracle. I don't know any team would ever want to sign that player because he's fit one out of 1,000 matches. So if they please get him out of here, that's a bit harsh, but come on. Yeah. How many games did he play for us? That being said, I was going to bring that up too, Russ. I didn't want to be too negative because I know you get on me sometimes.
No. I want you to be negative. That's why I want you to be you.
But what you said about the center backs is, I think, the most glaring deficiency in this team. And frankly, I'm terrified of what happens. I mean, Tim Ream and Tosin did all right today, did well today. They weren't really challenged, but we have to be clear. We can't point to anything they did and be like, that's unbelievably bad. They weren't. So we can't say that. Yep. That being said, I think we've seen Tim Ream in the Premier League. That's all I'm going to say on the matter because I don't want to attack him. I really like the guy. I think he's a servant for the club, but we see him in the Premier League. I just have to point anyone to the 3-0 loss to Villa last season for what happens when he plays against not even a great side, an average to mediocre Premier League side.
Okay.
We've also seen Tosin make some mistakes in the Premier League, but I'm not asking for him to be replaced because I'm realistic. But those are the only two center backs we have who have any Premier League experience in the squad. How can a team go into the season 6 days away with two recognized Premier League center backs, and one of them should not be starting?
We should be blaming the side. Yeah. And I'll go back 2 seasons ago, Max, and if you remember correctly, I was very critical of the fact that they left a player go out on loan. They let Mawson leave, if you remember correctly, and they did not replace him. Like, why are you doing this? If they do the same thing, whether Silva wants this player or not, why are you doing this? Do you have that much faith in the youngsters, the two young center backs? I think that's great, but you need proven players out there in the Premier League. What are you doing? Why have you not been able to find a replacement? I understand that it does take time. I've said I'll be able to deal with it a little bit if they bring these players in, if they're quality. But if you're, again, if you're going to let a player go out on loan, you got to have someone, or even trial. You got to have someone come in. The club definitely deserves criticism. I'm glad that you brought that up. My friend, I want to share some comments. This is an interesting one. This is from someone that actually just joined us. So I'm a Chelsea fan on loan to Fulham as a fan for at least until the January transfer window. I'm using PlayStation FIFA to learn my new team. I even purchased a Fulham shirt. Phantom of many topics. Welcome to Fulham. And he also liked it.
Let's take away the loan. Just there's nothing good about Chelsea, sir.
So here we go.
Become a Fulham fan. Just why would you ever want to support Chelsea? Um,
Okay.
I'll leave it at that. But hey, glad you're watching the show. One thing I want to say, Russ, quickly about
Yeah,
the
go
center
ahead.
back issue. I think a lot of supporters have a counter argument, and they say, "Well, the transfer window is open until the end of August," which is true.
It
It's not
is.
like once Liverpool starts, we're done for the season. That
Right.
being said, everyone knows that it's going to be tight for us to stay up in the Premier League, and everyone can agree that every point matters. Those are
Of
not
course it
controversial
is.
things.
Yep.
Look at our first match of the season. Liverpool, we're probably going to lose that. Not too bothered. Then we play Wolves away. We play at Brentford home, Arsenal away, Brighton home. So I'm looking at 3 matches: Wolves away, Brentford home, Brighton home. Those are 3 massive matches. I think
Totally agree.
ideally we could target 2 wins and a draw in an ideal
Yeah,
world. We want to have our strongest squad in place for those games,
I agree.
and that includes a center back. So it's if for some reason we drop points in those matches because of our defensive frailties, you have to point fingers at the transfer policy, because yes, we can make transfers through that time,
Yep.
but we're throwing away winnable matches. I mean, Brentford home, Brighton at home, those are games we should be targeting for 3 points, and we're going to go into them unprepared at the moment. I hope I'm wrong.
Well, I hope you're wrong too, my friend. And my argument on this, and I've said this on Cottage Talk, that I want them to sign quality players. And sometimes that takes a little bit. We saw what happened with Anderson. I want another Anderson. Sometimes that takes time, as you said, the situation with the window, but you have to be able to balance it with what's going on now. And I can't say why they have not been able to get a center back in. I understand the criticism, but they leave themselves open to this criticism by not getting one center back. And dare I say they need 2? I'll even say 3 that they desperately need, especially if you're going to let Congola go. You could use 3 quality center backs, at least 1, potentially 2 starters and a backup. And of course, we're talking about that they need depth. They need a backup striker. There's all kinds of things they still need. I love what they've done so far in the window, my friend, but there's a lot of work to be done. And the club deserves the criticism that they're getting. They absolutely do. I'm not going to say that they don't. I can be a little bit more patient on this than maybe some can, but the season's about to start. They're going to have to really up the ante a little bit and get players in. And can they wait to the end of the window? Yes, but that's a losing formula. For me, we've seen that movie. We've seen that movie in 2018. I don't want to see that movie again. I absolutely don't. I want them to try to get these players in, but they need to move on from targets if they're not coming in, my friend. This Diop thing, we're seeing it in the press. If they can't get them, move on. Move on to your next target. Get someone here that wants to be here that you can make a deal with. Don't settle for trying to win the deal. See, this is the issue I have with Fulham sometimes. And I see it with my New England Patriots. I think there's a little bit of parallel. Sometimes they want to win the deal. And again, this is a criticism of Tony Khan. I don't care if you win the effing deal. Get the player here. If it's going to take a little bit more money to get the player, get the player. I don't care if you're going to win the business deal. Get the player. That's the way I look at it, my friend. I know we've gone off on a tangent, but that's, again, I know Fulham supporters want to hear talk about the transfer window, but I do want to get back and focus on this match. So let's now talk about the second half, Max. And I just want to get your overall thoughts. We'll talk about the goal that Fulham scored in the second half, but overall second half observations.
Yeah, it was a little choppier, as you were saying. So many substitutions does that to a match. There's certainly less flow to it. I think both teams kind of took a step back. There are fewer clear-cut chances, and I think Villarreal grew into the match, did a couple of nice breaks, I thought, with Nicholas Jackson on the left wing. Certainly, time after time, we saw Tete kind of getting caught up the field, Tosin having to cover, and he ended up doing well. But Villarreal really grew into the match, I would say. And then there were the 2 big chances for Mitro, one of which he'll want to have that one back. Let's just
Wow.
say that.
Yeah.
But the other one he took well. I'd say the first chance that hit off the bar, excellent ball from Pereira. That's exactly what we've been missing. Hopefully, what we can replace with Carvalho is that creativity.
Exactly.
That curling crossfield ball to Deco Reed was just superb. And then credit to Deco Reed. I really thought he was going to hit it first time and maybe shank it wide or blaze it
Yep.
over, but he has the vision to lay it off simple to Mitro, who had an open goal, and that's a howler. That's a really bad miss from him.
For
But
him. Yeah.
strikers have a short memory, and then of course he scored the goal in the 87th minute, and we can talk about that a bit later.
Yep, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. I'll share my view of the second half, and you already talked about how I felt about it. I thought it was more even in the second half. I thought Fulham was the better side in the first half. Substitutions came for both sides, but overall, I thought it was a decent second half, where I'll say the first half was a good first half, second half decent. But there were some moments, and I still got to see the crisp passing. I still got to see the play. The one thing, again, that stands out to me is some of the pressing, Max, because they're going to have to do that in the Premier League. I've seen, like, we're talking about, will we see a different Fulham side from the championship team? This looks a little bit different how they're going to approach it. Would you agree with me? And I think we saw that overall in the match. They look a little bit different, meaning I don't remember how much we really pressed in the championship. I'm seeing a real concerted effort here to press the team, especially that play out from the back, and it can lead to some good things. I know we're talking about a friendly, but I saw that in the last friendly too against Estoril. The pressing is something that is eye-opening to me. I think that's something that they're working on.
Yeah, sure, for sure. I think also the pressing and the quicker passing kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
With the realization that the Premier League is going to be a different beast, and it's going to be a much quicker style of play. And you're not going to have time on the ball. And by extension, you're going to have to make sure your opponents don't have time on the ball. So I agree with you. I think Silva clearly worked on that in preseason. Of course, the players who we saw play today were the players he's had the most time to shape and to get his, vision in over the offseason when they've been there. And I think maybe it's paying off. So that's encouraging.
Okay, very good. All right, let's now go and talk about the goal. We talked about the missed opportunity from Mitro, but what stands out to me, and you could see him fading near the end, was Kenny Tete. Kenny Tete comes off, and he might have picked up a knock, and you now see Kevin Mbabu make an appearance. And Mbabu, I thought, in a very short period of time, Max, played fairly well here. And obviously, it actually went a little bit before he set up the goal here. He looks confident. He's a 27-year-old player. And people have said to me, he'll be your starter, Russ. And I said, well, I still believe in Kenny Tete. In only a short period of time, I now have doubts that it'll be Kenny Tete, because Kevin Mbabu looked impressive in a very short period of time. The pass, and again, just the overall quality that he brought, my friend. Obviously, we could talk about the goal, but let's still first talk about Kevin Mbabu here.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Tete had that cramp, came off, and Mbabu, I think, already, really showed him up in the matter of minutes, which is says a lot, I think, about the instant impact he made. He was always, every time he passed the ball in the right back position, his first idea was, let me move forward, let me make the overlap, let me get down the wing. And that's really positive. I think that's what the modern fullback really needs. I think Tete has the same instinct. It's just that his service isn't as good or isn't as reliable. Now, we didn't see Mbabu play for a whole match, so we didn't really get to see him defensively. I think that's another thing we have to take into account, is how good is he at his recovery runs? How good is he positionally? We just don't know yet. But I mean, that ball fizzed across the box for Mitrovic, and that's what we've been crying out for all match. So that was really refreshing to see that.
Okay, very good there, my friend. And it really was. And, I wasn't one that thought that right back was the biggest need of the fullbacks. I still think it's left back, my friend. And we could talk about that right now. Do you agree with me, getting back to while we're talking about this, that left back was a bigger need even to start off than right back?
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that Silva has no faith in Tete, just based on what we saw with Nico Williams last season. Right. As soon as Nico Williams came in, he was the starter.
Right.
And he's always been looking to get a right back and bought a right back to replace Tete. So that just might be a thing with the manager, that he just does not rate Tete one bit.
But as a supporter, isn't left back glaring? Isn't left back glaring?
I really go back and forth on Anthony Robinson, Ross. He really gives me a hard time, because sometimes I think this guy's the future.
I want him to do well, and I want to stress this. I want him to do well. I do.
But sometimes his decision-making is just really poor, and he tries to dribble people in his own half, and he still hasn't shown any sort of improvement in my mind in his attacking.
It's the decision-making. I agree with you. It really is the decision-making.
He's very pacey. He's quite good at card tricks. He can do a backflip.
Oh, he's great at card tricks. It's great.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if in the Premier League Anthony Robinson is going to be a solid defender, and that worries me. It really
I
does.
I agree with that, and again, I thought he held his own 2 seasons ago, but I also thought at times he showed, again, that there are some weaknesses there, and I think we saw that, and, again, listen, they might need well, again, I think Anthony Robinson can play in the Premier League, but I think we know Joe Bryant is not a Premier League player, so regardless, they need a left back. I think that's obvious. So I want a starting left back. And I've said that, and I've had fans of the U.S. men's national team that have come down on me, my friend. When it comes to Anthony Robinson, they expect me just to say how great Anthony Robinson is. I said, I watch him each and every week, and I'm telling you, Fulham need a better left back. And they're like, they're shocked by this. And I said, I'm sorry. I'm telling you what I watch on a regular basis. You don't see him as often as Max and I. We see him all the time. We see the ability, but we also see the lack of decision making that you said. And the crossing's appalling. And I keep going back to I talked about that on that hasn't improved. The the crossing is horrible. Anyways, I know we're going off on a tangent, but let's now focus back on the end of the match. What did you make? And again, we're talking about second half observations of Jay Stansfield and Luke Harris.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up because that's one of the things we really look out for in preseason is how can we get the youngsters
I'm
involved.
glad that they got in this
Yeah,
match.
I, I think Stansfield was it was interesting he was played in the wing, which I guess is a realization of the fact which he's not really going to challenge Mitro in the number 9 position.
Right.
I'd never seen Stansfield play in a wide position before, but yeah, he was good.
I
He had
thought
that
he was
1-2 where he was
thought he was
tripped.
pretty good.
He could have had a goal there.
Yeah.
He showed really good pace and desire. I mean, he's someone I think who is going to just a youngster is going to work just 110% every match because he wants to prove himself, and that's such a valuable asset to have. It almost reminded me of how Sessegnon started out, is
Right.
just really scrappy and just will chase down every ball, will slide to every slide tackle, will get stuck in, and has a really good turn of pace. Luke Harris as well really impressed me. Didn't see, I think, as much of him as we saw Stansfield, but
Yep.
in the little touches we saw, very good technically. I know the people who watch the academy closely rate
Yep.
him very highly, Luke Harris. Very promising. I would have loved to see them maybe for 30 minutes instead of 15, 20, but
Right.
I think there's a lot there. I don't know how much they're going to see in the Premier League though, because we
Oh,
love them
I
in the
know.
preseason, but the Premier League is just a different beast, and it's hard because young players need to get playing time, and I'm not sure if a relegation dogfight is necessarily the best chance to get them acclimated. But I was really encouraged by what I saw.
So was I. It's funny because I think Luke Harris is going to be a player that we're going to be talking about in, say, 2 to 3 years. Jay Stansfield has, I think, an opportunity maybe to make more of an impact over the next couple of years. We'll see. But I did like what I saw from him. Does he have a role this season? I'm not sure. Just because, like you said, the Premier League, is he ready for that? Can he compete? He might, but I just don't know if he's going to get enough game time to really show what he can do and improve as a player. So that's going to be the rub with Jay Stansfield. Okay. Good stuff. I've really enjoyed doing the show. I'm glad that we've done the show. I miss you, Max. We haven't done enough, but listen, coming up next, we're going to end the show talking about man of the match. If you're watching it live, please feel free to share who was your man of the match. Okay, Max, let's get to it. Man of the match. I already went off and said that my man of the match was Andres Pereira, and he just stood out for me. I think Fulham are going to miss Fabio Carvalho, but if this player can do what he did today, again, we're going to talk about that as a friendly, and I've noticed him in other friendlies. I think they'll still miss Carvalho, but maybe not as much as I thought. I think he could be an asset. He's got something to prove here. He was my man of the match.
I think Pereira really impressed me. I think he's probably up there in my end of the match estimation, but I'm gonna have to go Mitch Rich just because he got the goal and
Okay.
he showed, I think, really good mentality because he missed a sitter, plain and simple, just a terrible finish, empty net. You should be putting that in 10 times out of 10. And he
Yeah.
rebounds, gets back, doesn't let that affect him, and gets a goal later on. So Mitch Rich for me. But Pereira, definitely an honorable mention. Really, really bright. And I think that's the main thing, is that I was curious in how he'd adapt and whether he'd think a relegation fight was, beneath him, or whether he doesn't really want to be in England. I think his effort has been great, and his technical quality is obviously there for all to see.
Okay, excellent. I'll share some comments. If you're watching live, feel free to share some others as well. Our friend Neil Stewart, Pauline, man of the match for deserving a red and a friendly. Honestly, Neil, he deserved the red. He actually did. Let's be honest.
For which challenge?
The second challenge. I
Oh, for
agree
the
with
second.
Neil on this. I was
Yeah.
expecting him to be sent off. You don't agree, Max?
Oh, I can see that. I can see that. Yeah, he was definitely over exuberant.
Yeah. But it's funny because I still think he's going to be a key player for Fulham. I'm going to say that. I definitely do. So our new friend, let's see if he becomes a Fulham supporter. Mitrovic, man of the match, goes with Max. I certainly understand that. I'm going to stick with my thoughts on Pereira. Let's see. It's so funny. I love this comb. He didn't see the match. He's going to go with Mbabu probably by what we already said. So there you go. So thank you. Let's see. Our friend Wayne Walden. Thank you, Wayne, for chiming in. He goes with Mitro. God, everyone's going with Max. That gets me. Everyone's going to go with Max, but I certainly understand that. Okay, good stuff. Max, I have thoroughly enjoyed doing this show with you. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a while. And we will do a show before the Liverpool match, and we'll give our season predictions. I've already given mine, so I'm going to give it again here, and I'll probably do it on our show to preview the Liverpool match. Max, give me your season prediction for Fulham. I'll share mine right now. I said 15th. I'm being bold, and I'm going 15th. Max, do we survive?
Yeah, I mean, I'm never going to predict Fulham to go down, Russ. You know me too well to say that.
I do.
My friends are asking this all the time, and I said to them, if Tim Ream starts more than 10 matches, we'll probably go down. But I'll predict 17th.
You'll go 17th?
That's just how I'm going to go. I think we'll just stay up by the skin of our teeth. But yeah, it's been a great show. It's been great to see everyone in the comments on YouTube. We love to get the YouTube engagement, as Russ has been saying.
Yep.
I just saw Michael B said he's going to be a Fulham fan this season. And he visited Fulham earlier this summer, so that's great to see new fans coming in as well as our new friends who hopefully ditches the Chelsea support. But yeah, great to see all the engagement, and really looking forward to a great season.
So am I, my friend. So am I. And listen, I want to thank everyone that has liked us on YouTube. It really does help, and the interaction today has been great. It's funny. I'm just looking at the numbers, people watching us live. Just and again, that doesn't give us the total number, but there's a decent amount that are watching us live. So we really appreciate it. We're going to be doing a bunch of live shows. So the best way to get alerts is to subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. And I look forward to the season. And it's funny, Max, I'll share this with you before we go. So I've been asked to do a show and talk about Fulham on a radio show here in New England on Wednesday. You're going to appreciate this. I'm going to share this with you. So on Wednesday, hopefully around 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be on the Big Jab up in Maine.
Oh, wow.
And they want me on to talk about Fulham. How about that? A show in Maine wants me on to talk about Fulham. They happen to really love football. And actually, one of the hosts is an Everton supporter. So I've been on before, and he wants me to preview Fulham on the Big Jab up in Maine, which is kind of cool. But on top of that, this is the part that you're going to appreciate. I am actually going to be, as a part of the media, I have media access for Patriots training camp on Wednesday for the very first time. And I'll be there at Gillette Stadium talking on the Big Jab about the Patriots and Fulham. So it's kind of a big deal for me. It's the first time that I've had media access at Gillette Stadium. At least I hope that I do get. I've been told that I will. So I should be at Gillette Stadium on Wednesday. And at the same time, I'll be talking Fulham. So it'll be nice. It's weird. I'll be talking Patriots and Fulham together, my two loves. So I just thought I would share that.
Very exciting, Russ. I can't wait to tune in. That's awesome.
That's great. And listen, if anyone doesn't know already, please follow Max at Max P. Cohen on Twitter. And if you want some good politics, Max is your man. He is the man talking politics. He's got all the good information about what's going on in the U.S. in regards to politics. Please do follow Max. Max, any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
It just feels like just yesterday we were winning 7-0 against Luton to go up and win the title. And now 6 days to go, Premier League season starting went by like that, which is the best way
Yeah.
to have preseason go. Cannot wait to experience the Premier League this year with you again, Russ. Hopefully we stay up this time. I'm
Okay.
a very simple ask, just not the bottom three.
Okay. Very good. I want to share this. This is from our new friend here. So just so you know, he lived in Marlborough. So that's actually about a half hour from where I live. I live in Walpole, Massachusetts, so not that far away. But he's a Cowboys fan. I'll let that one go. I'll definitely let that one go. That's okay. Max, are you still a Redskins fan?
No, Russ, come on, that's really insulting. I'm a
What?
Giants fan. I've always been a Giants fan.
Oh,
You
I'm
know
sorry.
this.
I
I,
I
I can't believe you
forgot.
said that. I really can't believe
Oh.
you said that. I hate the Washington team. Always have. But
Wow. Oh,
but yeah,
and I'm sorry, I forgot to call them the Washington Commanders. So, boy, that's a really bad on me. It's the Washington Commanders, right? Which again, very interesting name. So, okay, well, the Washington football team. Sorry about that. Washington football team. And Max is a Giants fan. Wow. Wow. I completely forgot Max. I should know my Max trivia. I really should. Okay. Well, I'm going off on another. I've gone off on several tangents. We need to wrap up the show. For my good friend Max Cohen, I'm Russ Cohen. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk.